Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here. Our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series, to be precise. We have reached episode number 154. That is the 154th trolley stop here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Massalonis, the manager here at PR from the Heart. Thank you so much for spending some time with us wherever you are and wherever you may be. Sooner than we know it, sometimes, well, regularly here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, we hear the trolley, but you know what can be even more exciting than hearing the trolley? When you hear the school bell. And when you hear the school bell, you know that it's almost time for the back to school season. Depending upon when you are watching this Children's Book Spotlight Series episode, you already may be in the midst of the start of the back to school season for your little one or little ones, which is again one of the most exciting time frames in the year. But as little ones are heading back to school, there's obviously a lot of fears and insecurities that our children can face. They can even face them during the course of the summertime, and especially as they continue to grow up. As you transition from childhood to adulthood, we even as big kids experience a lot with regards to self-acceptance. That is the main theme that we're going to be covering here on this week's episode of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, because it's a very important message for us to be able to help our little ones to know that they have not only everything that they need inside of them, but that they're loved, that they're special, that they're gifted, that they're talented, that they're just perfect, just the way that they are. And one of our biggest sources of inspiration here at PR from the Heart, of course, is the beloved late Mr. Rogers, of course, the host of the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And he concluded each and every episode of his program reminding his little viewers, his little neighbors, that you're loved and you're special just the way that you are. So we like to do that in our own way here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, and leave it to a brand new children's book, of course, to help us see the way to be able to help our little ones know that you can accept yourself for who you are, and that God, most importantly, loves us exactly just the way that we are too. It provides us some additional reassurance in the process. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com and to purchase your copy of Little Curly Susie, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Author House. You can, of course, as well, one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Suzette Oxendine, who is waiting in the wings, joining us momentarily as our featured guest here on this week's program. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Suzette is to leave a 5-star review on Amazon for Little Curly Susie. Indeed, if you feel guided to do so, that just reminds her that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books in the state of North Carolina, throughout the country, and all around the world. So the trolley's going to rack up some mileage here. We're going to travel out from San Diego, California, all the way to the beautiful area of Pembroke, North Carolina. Joining us is our featured guest here on episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, children's author, Suzette Oxendine. Suzette, we really appreciate spending some time with us here in our neighborhood this week. How are things with you today?
Yes, things are going great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm really, anytime that I can have a conversation with someone about this specific and particular topic, it's always needed. It's something that we need to hear as adults, that little ones need to be able to hear. And congratulations on the release of your book as well, too. And of course, we will be diving into the pages of Little Curly Susie momentarily. If this message is already lifting your spirits, if this message is already bringing more love and joy into your heart, if you say, this is great, Suzette, John, I now have a great resource that I can provide to my little one as he or she heads back to school, so that they're feeling more stronger, more confident, more able within themselves. One of the many ways you can pledge your support here for us at the Children's Book Spotlight Series is to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, and to share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Suzette, this is a very, it's an evergreen resource, which is great because children and adults can utilize it at any given point in time. But the timing of you releasing this book now, I find it perfect, because, you know, little ones and us as big kids, we're all coming out of the pandemic, and we still kind of have a little weeble wobbly here or there, especially when it comes to self-acceptance. Before we talk about your book, it obviously begins with your journey and your origin story. You very much care about children. This is one of the reasons why we're very blessed to work with you here at PR from the Heart. For those of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars who are learning about you and your work for at this particular point in time, could you share with us when you first knew that your mission was here for the children? Could you share with us a little bit about, so to speak, your own origin story? What brought you here to this particular point in time?
Yeah, so going back to the pandemic, that time gave a lot of us an opportunity to kind of just sit at home and think where we're headed, what's up next, that kind of thing. And I was home with my 7-year-old at the time, who was doing his school online, his virtual learning. We read books. He was in first grade at that time, and he was learning to read. And unfortunately, he was having to learn how to read online. So I was fortunate enough to be there with him to help him. So we read all kinds of children's books of all kinds, trying to help him learn to read and trying to get him to develop a love of reading as well. I actually have never really had a dream of writing a children's book. That wasn't something on the top of my to-do list. But during the pandemic, I just kind of reevaluated where I was with my walk with Christ and what he was leading me to do, my next journey, which direction I should head. So I kind of just always knew in my mind that if I ever did write a story, it would be about a personal experience of mine as a curly head, little brown skinned Native American girl. So that's kind of how the book started and how my origin is kind of tied into the character of the book.
I love that. And I feel that, for some children's authors, they know early on, it's kind of like, for example, like if you want to be a reporter and you're growing up, you got the little spiral notebook and the little pen and you're writing down all the questions kind of thing. So certain authors know early on that they want to be a children's author. But you're right, during the pandemic, a lot of us had the opportunities to reassess what do we want to create for the rest of our lives? What do we want to bring more in of the world? We've seen a lot of the fear and the stress and the drama and the chaos and the anxiety. There's been plenty of that. And so it's a matter of, we have a choice. We were given a choice. Do we want to bring more love into the world? And you're obviously doing that through little curly Susie. In terms of the specific process that you were experiencing on your end of things, you obviously mentioned that it kind of began during the pandemic. Could you kind of take us behind the scenes, so to speak, when you knew that this particular message needed to be shared at this particular point in time? What was that experience like for you? And did you experience any sort of challenges or difficulties you feel along the way when you knew it's like, okay, I'm going to write this children's book? Sometimes we can feel like we're Wonder Woman or Superman, and it's like, this is going to be a breeze. This is going to be rainbows and gumdrops. But then we realize when we're doing something for the first time that it's a process, and we may experience a little speed bump or two along the way.
Yes, definitely. Because actually writing the story itself didn't take long at all. That was just a matter of maybe a day, if that long. But then once I wrote it, I did question myself. What am I doing? I'm not an author. I have no training in writing, editing, none of that. But I felt deep in my spirit that God was leading me in that direction. So once I wrote the manuscript, I just kind of sat on it for a while. And as I kept working with my son through the school year, I felt like I had to move forward with it. So all the challenges of being a complete novice, not knowing anything about writing or publishing, all those kind of hit me hard. And I had to do a lot of research. I had to talk to as many people as I could, which was not easy because there aren't a lot of children's authors, just for you to call, on the phone. So that was difficult. It still is difficult. Once I had published the book, it was, finding a way to market the book, to sell the book, to try to gain some profit out of the book. And the other part with that is that the entire time I had to remind myself that God said his message has been published, and that's what was most important. So yeah, there's still challenges. There were challenges. but I have gotten to this point, and hopefully I can keep going.
And I believe that you're doing a wonderful job, and I believe that there's many more blessings along the way that are going to be coming through this book. You're a mother of 4 boys, which is that's a job that you can't call in sick from. I give a lot of credit to moms and dads, because it's like, sometimes people might think it's not the most glamorous thing, like you're not, a Hollywood director, or you're not, you're not this affluent kind of thing in many people's eyes, but it's literally one of the biggest gifts that God can give you, is to be a mother or father. And I feel that there is undoubtedly much inspiration that you had through this whole process of bringing this book to form and shape, and the process of now sharing it with the world right now. Could you share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about the inspiration that your boys gave you? Sometimes, I have noticed in speaking with children's authors over the years and children's illustrators, it's a matter of that their children can be the best editor, the best promoter, like, hey, my mom's got a brand new children's book out, or hey, my dad is finally realizing his dream, and his first book or his 5th book is out there, kind of thing. What was some of the inspiration that you drew from your 4 sons throughout this whole process of putting little curly Susie together, and now again sharing it with the world?
I think the biggest thing, I have 2 older bonus sons, I like to call them, and then I have 2 younger sons of my own. And the house is always full, the house is always loud, and the house is always busy. So I wanted to, I guess, pull from their energy, their excitement, their humor. I wanted to make my character a little humorous, but just getting in these little shenanigans, that kind of thing. Not that she faced anything as far as trouble in the book, but just trying to pull from their energy. They're full of life, and I wanted that to be in my character. I wanted readers to get that she was happy, and that she had, this big, beautiful smile. She had friends, even though there was just a small issue that she had to struggle with. So yeah, just pulling that into the character was probably the biggest thing I got from them.
I love that. And we are, of course, almost ready to dive into the pages of Suzette's brand new children's book, Little Curly Susie. But of course, we want to, again, extend our gratitude and appreciation to those who are joining us here this week on episode number 154 of the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series. Suzette Oxendine is our featured guest during the program this week. And again, we are almost ready to dive into the pages of Little Curly Susie, which again is now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com. You can leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so. Again, that's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Suzette, to let her know that she's doing wonderful work, her and the team at Author House, for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books in the process. And again, also for those of you who wish to be able to connect further with Suzette, whether if you're a teacher, principal, librarian, would like to be able to facilitate an in-person or virtual author visit with Suzette during the back-to-school season, as well as into the early part of the new year. We've also included links to her Facebook page and her official website in the comments below, as well to in the description below, I should say. The story itself, it's a very simple story with a very heartfelt message, but it really translates. It really resonates. And when little ones are going through the age of their 7, 8, 9, 10, they're very impressionable. For a lot of us back then when we were growing up, it's always, we wanted to fit in. And our sons and our daughters still want to do that as of right now. And that's kind of what Susie experiences as part of being on her soccer team. Without giving away the whole kit and caboodle, because we don't like to give away the whole kit and caboodle here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, could you give us a little bit of a glimpse inside Susie's journey and what she experiences, and really how her mother is her rock in many respects? God is also her rock as well too, but she has this wonderful support system that's there for her when she's going through this experience that she's having with trying to fit in.
Yeah, and the main thing about the book is I wanted that the book to actually be a resource for parents in particular, who could relate to their kids or even themselves going through a similar situation that Susie went through, to be able to use the scripture that's in the book, like I said, as a resource to conversate with their kids, or even talk, remind themselves about God's love and design for us all. So yeah, Susie has an insecurity about herself, which is based on a true story about myself. And she goes through life with her insecurity, but sometimes it really kind of tugs at her. And she gets to the point where she wants to fix her problem on her own. Unfortunately, it's not the right way. So her mom catches her, her mom stops her, and then her mom has this heartfelt conversation to kind of help get her over the hump of dealing with her insecurity.
I love that. And I feel that this is something that, you know, little ones growing up, whether, let's say, if you have freckles, or if you have red hair, or if you have curly hair, or and it can even be the slightest small thing, you know, maybe like one eye is greener than the other. Like, we all have similarities and we all have differences. And I think it's important to be able to let our little ones know, like, if we were all the same, right, that it would kind of be boring as well too. But again, you know, especially with different things that little ones face tied to bullying, especially, it's like at the end of the day, it's just they really want, and sometimes children will feel that, like, if they don't like the color of their hair, that they're, you know, they're going to dye their hair to be able to fit in. Or even us as adults, like, you know, someone may say, I've got too big of a nose. And that's why you see, you know, adults getting different sort of cosmetic enhancements with their body. And I really wish, and this is one of the things that I feel that adults can learn from your story and from your book, Suzette, is the fact that, you know, that we are perfect just the way that we are. And even if there's that slightest imperfection, that it's okay to be imperfectly perfect, if that makes sense as well too. Being able to integrate, I know that you would briefly alluded to this, but if we can kind of unpack this a little bit more, there's obviously children's books that have a faith-based component, which I think is extraordinarily important. You very much connect with the Bible, and it's not only a great resource, but there's a lot of security and faith and trust that we can find from reading the Bible in what can seem to be like a chaotic world. Why was it really important for you to not just have this book be like faith-based, you know, faith-based, spiritual-based, inspirationally based, but to be able to include a few of those passages? And I'll mention both of them that come to mind is Psalms chapter 139, verse 14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And then the other one is Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. So why was that important to you to be able to include those verses in the book?
I wanted to include the verses, period. First and foremost, I hope that my book would be set apart, because you don't find a lot of children's books, especially, that have actual scripture taken straight from the Word of God, not, you know, paraphrased or changed in any form. So I wanted that in the book at the forefront. But those particular scriptures honed in on little Susie's insecurity and how to defeat that, to overcome that mindset that she had. There's multiple scriptures that I could have pulled, but those spoke to me personally. And some of my favorite, well, one of my favorite verses there, Psalms 139. And I wanted to share that one. And I think it's probably the easiest one to understand and then therefore accept, especially in this day and age that we're living in.
Agreed. And, you know, one of the things that little ones obviously had their own fears, insecurities, anxieties, doubts leading into the pandemic. And then, you know, kids wake up one day and it's like they can't go to school. They can't be with their friends. They really can't do much of anything. They're staying in their home with their mom and dad, or just mom or just dad, or grandma, grandpa, whatever their living situation is. And I can only imagine, you know, being in the headspace and the heart space of a little one during the pandemic. And again, you know, now we're starting to come out of the pandemic. So things that little ones were experiencing, things that adults were experiencing, now we're starting to get to be on the other side of. In terms of this specific message of self-acceptance, you know, we could easily just kind of pretend that the past couple of years didn't happen, so to speak. But I think one of my favorite expressions is that when you learn the lesson of something, You don't necessarily have to repeat the same sort of storyline over and over and over again. So in terms of, you know, those little ones who are navigating through, whether it be insecurity issues, acceptance issues, there's even some children, needless to say, that probably feel that their life is not worth living, or they don't love themselves. What would be your message to those children, especially in the process, that you'd like to share from your heart?
That is a good question. If I can speak from the biblical standpoint, you know, one thing that I do for myself, and I encourage others, women, children, anyone, to do, is to take that scripture and write it down, and not just memorize it, but write it down, maybe on a post-it, and put it on your mirror in your bathroom, in your closet, on your nightstand, on your pillow, maybe for a small child, to where that scripture is constantly fed into your mind, that you can feast on it, in essence, and it gets ingrained in you. And then, like you're saying, once you've learned it and accepted it, it's not that big of a deal anymore, and you can move forward.
Agreed. I love that. I'm a big fan of Post-it notes. I actually just got some the other day, and I got like the ones with the different colors on them as well too.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, purple are the ones for my bathroom mirror, and blue are the ones for my office desk, and things of that nature. And I feel that, you know, being able to make this fun for our little ones, right? Because, you know, especially if, you know, little ones are moving through a very heavy sort of emotional challenge, it may kind of involve a little bit more of a step-by-step process, a day-by-day sort of thing. But, you know, eventually you do get to the other side of things. And I feel this is one of the things that you're doing a wonderful job with, is that, you know, life is meant to be celebrated, and it's meant to be enjoyed. And when we can do our part to be able to accept ourselves for who God has made us to be, like, we can have more happiness, we can have more joy. It doesn't have to be, you know, the sad, somber drudgery that maybe many of us had experienced, either growing up or at different points in our life. For those parents and educators who are looking for a resource, but also some additional, whether it be tips or tools or strategies, one of the things that we love here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series to be able to provide is that knowledge that you can extract from an episode of the Children's Book Spotlight Series and immediately implement it, integrate it into the regular daily lives of your little ones. So for those parents, for those educators who are tuning in, teachers, principals, librarians, and they want to do their part as caregivers of children to be able to help little ones connect more with their self-acceptance, what are some other simple ways? You'd obviously mentioned the Post-it notes, and I think that that's a great way. What would be some other specific examples that come to mind in terms of tangible things, but simple things that can really make a difference in the lives of our little ones when it comes to incorporating more self-acceptance into their lives?
I think the biggest thing is communication. You know, we hope that all parents are a great resource, but that's not realistic. So if kids are in school and they have good teachers or counselors or friends who have parents that, if they don't have that themselves, that can give that guidance, it's kind of hard to pinpoint specific resources, you know, tangible resources. But for kids, I think the biggest thing is communication. If you can keep a kid open, where they're not bottling their feelings and their emotions and they are expressing them, that will go a long way, all the way through adulthood. So I would say just keeping communication with the right resource in an individual is probably the best way that could take place.
I'm really glad that you mentioned the word communication, because, you know, kind of going back to Mr. Rogers, like, he was not afraid to have conversations with kids. And as many times, you know, we can wonder, well, you know, do we talk above our children, or do we talk down to them, or do we talk around them? Like, speak to them as if they are your equal, and speak to them in a way in which they'll understand. And that's really when you're going to be doing your part to be able to make an even greater impact on your little one, or little one in your life in the process. We're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here in episode number 154 at PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series, Suzette Oxendine. We are enjoying her brand new children's book here at PR from the Heart, Little Curly Susie. We encourage you to head on over to Amazon.com if you're already not there. If that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so. Again, that's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Suzette and the team at Author House to let them know that they're doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. And of course, for all the educators, not only throughout North Carolina, but across the country, if you are interested in facilitating an in-person or virtual author visit with your students for the forthcoming back-to-school season, we've included Suzette's official website and Facebook page in the description below so that you can connect with her and keep this wonderful conversation moving forward post-Children's Book Spotlight series. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about as well too, I am very grateful for my church out here in San Diego. When I lived out in Buffalo, as a member of Unity of Buffalo, and since I'm out there, I'm actually in the midst of, while we're recording this episode, I'm in the midst of training to become a prayer chaplain. On Minor Things, I actually lead the men's circle at my church as well too, and it's just so like it is a great. It's a great fill-up station for me, so to speak, kind of like, when your car is empty and it needs gasoline, where do you go? Well, same thing with us as human beings kind of things. The fact that you are the wife of a pastor and you're a church music director, we obviously talked about the faith component of your book. How important is that to you, not only as a mom, a children's author, but just like a fellow soul, a fellow human being, to be able to have that faith-based component be in your life and really have it be a strong part of your life?
Yeah, so as a Christian, our faith is everything, and without it, we wouldn't be able to call ourselves a born-again Christian. So, reading the Bible, praying, and communing with God is what gets me through each day, sometimes each hour when things are difficult enough. So, attending church regularly, all the activities that we have going on with church that I'm involved in or that I lead, all of that is who I am. Who I am at this point in my life, and it's sustaining me. It's carrying me through the next stages and next phases of life as a mother, as a pastor's wife, like you said, now as a children's author, and all the other hats that I wear. Yeah, my faith is everything, and I'm grateful for it, and I'll never lose it.
Thank you for sharing that as well too, because I feel that to kind of briefly piggyback to what I was mentioning beforehand, many of us, when we're moving through challenging times, we can feel that we're invincible to a certain extent. Like, I've got this. How many times are you moving through something and it's like, I've got this? And then if you're moving through something, whether it be a divorce, whether it be the loss of a job, whether it be, the dissolving of a relationship, like, there is support out there. There's support out there from your local church. There's support there in different forms. And we're just here to remind you the importance of, if you're moving through something right now, if you're struggling with something, the importance of asking for help. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It makes you, if anything, a very strong and courageous person in the process as well, too. As we also begin to wind down our time, I know that I had mentioned the question of, for those little ones who are struggling right now, I think it's also important to be able to share a message to all of the young women out there, all of the dreamers. And we've been seeing such great strides being made in terms of, beforehand, what seems like not long ago, when you had a little one who wanted to be something, a little girl who wanted to be something, she would hear at some point, well, only boys can do that, right? And how I can just imagine how at that point, like, how disempowering that it was. But now, just for example, we have a female vice president of the United States of America, right? You have females that are now CEOs of rather large companies, right? So there's definitely a change has been happening over a long period and point in time. So to all the little girls out there, the little curly Susies of the world, so to speak, that want to be able to, step into greater things in life, to be able to meet their dreams, what would be the message that you would like to be able to share to them in the process?
I can't share a message without speaking from a Christian worldview. It's kind of hard to separate myself from that. So when I'm telling someone, put your trust and faith in God, tune into his calling and his plan and design for you to be able to move forward in his will, I can't really encourage outside of that. That's not who I am to be able to do that. So when I'm encouraging people to make decisions or move forward in different paths, it always goes back to prayer, fasting, and communing with God and being in tune with him to be able to know what your next step is under his will and under his plan for your life.
Thank you for sharing that as well too, because again, like, you know, when we have the little curly Susies of the world, it's important that they know that is between their family, between their faith, that, you know, that they don't have to walk this path alone, and that they can be able to receive not even just greater support, but that greater reconnection within. And it's just so amazing to be able to see, you know, young women being able to achieve their dreams more that much easier in the process. I also wanted to be able to share, you know, because your book has some wonderful humor, and when, of course, you know, when little curly Susie's doing her part to be able to straighten out her curls without giving away the whole kit and caboodle, watch the ironing board. Right? You know, ironing is a very interesting thing. You know, me turning, I'm turning 41 actually in a couple of weeks. And one of the things that's I really don't like to do is have to iron shirts. So like, I'm always the kind of guy that'll, like, you know, get the shirts that preferably don't need to be ironed after they're washed kind of thing or whatnot. But you'll definitely find some humor in the book as well too. And I think that is an essential component of a successful children's book in the process. Two of the ways that we like to close out each children's book spotlight series, we always like to give a little bit of a tip of the cap, as we mentioned, to the aforementioned Mr. Rogers, the host of the long-running beloved children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He reminded us in different ways through his time in the neighborhood when he spoke at different college commencement speeches across the country, different talks, and most notably when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys before he shortly passed from stomach cancer. He encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was his way of saying, you know, those earth angels that came across your path, all of those people that helped to remind you that it's okay to accept yourself, that it's okay to love yourself. And maybe if you weren't able to do that, that you could borrow someone else's faith for a quick second, for a quick cup of coffee, so that you can do your part to be able to connect more within yourself. Who would be some of the people that you would like to recognize here publicly on episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series who helped love you, Suzette Oxendine, into being?
That would definitely be my parents, Jennings and Connie Bullard. They are my creators that God entrusted them over my life. So they are at the top of my list. And then there's my husband, who I met, you know, later in life, who's my pastor, my husband. They all have great faith. They all love Jesus, and they are my role models to live life to the fullest in Christ. They are my foundation. They're my rock. They're my support. And I couldn't be where I am now without the three of them. There are many others, but they are my top three for sure.
And those, and thank you for sharing those as well. They're undoubtedly proud of you. And I know that, you know, Mr. Rogers had also said that, you know, whether those people that we mentioned and that we're thinking about, whether they're here or whether they're far away or whether they're in heaven, that they know the fact that we are doing a wonderful job and that we truly are a shining light for ourselves and for many people whose lives that we touch in the process. I thought you would actually get a kick out of this, by the way. One of my favorite places that I go to here, and they have them nationwide, are the Hallmark stores, you know, through Hallmark greeting cards. And I was at the Hallmark store just very close to my residence, and I found this little guy. And the tag, it's no joke. I thought this was the most adorable thing, because, you know, you find different little plushies of, you know, Jesus and, you know, Mary and like just different things along the way. And it's just like the tag even said, "My friend Jesus." And I'm like, how amazing is this, right? And it's like, you know, for those of our listeners and viewers, these guys got the little adorable sandals. I mean, like, look at this. Like, how amazing is this, right? And it's just like, I thought you would get a kick out of this as well.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
We also like to be able to give a little tip of the cap. I feel that us as human beings, fellow souls, open hearts, that we have the ability to help bring to form and shape our dreams, our goals, our desires, our ambitions, what it is that we want to create and bring into the world for ourselves. And we have the abilities to do it for other people as well, whether it be family members, friends, those whom we're called and guided to serve. So we always like to give a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite Disney animated classics here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We go back to 1992. We go back to the Genie of the Lamp, played by the late Robin Williams. And so we have a little segment that's entitled 3 Wishes. So Suzette, you have given for a long period of time to your family, to now children, parents, families, educators in North Carolina, across the country, around the world. So this is your time to be able to receive. So you are being given 3 wishes, and you can utilize these 3 wishes. I think the only 2 disqualifiers that I remember Robin Williams, as the Genie of the Lamp, said is that 1, you can't ask for more wishes, and 2, you can't make someone fall in love with you. So those are the only automatic disqualifiers. So what would your 3 wishes be?
Oh, wow. Well, I would wish that Little Curly Susie would be the first of many books to come. I would wish that my 2 small boys would continue to grow and hopefully take on the leadership of their mother, maybe as a writer or as a music director of some sort. But my overall wish was just to be blessed by God, my entire family. There are 6 of us, that He would keep us protected and healthy throughout the remaining of our years.
Those are wonderful wishes, and thank you for sharing those with us as well too. The final question that I wanted to ask is that I feel that everything in life is a teacher, whether it be an experience, whether it be a relationship, a process, someone that's in our life for either a brief moment or for an extended period of time. And undoubtedly, there's many things that you learn from Little Curly Susie. What has this book, the process of writing it, publishing it, now promoting it, what has Little Curly Susie taught you about yourself, and what has it taught you about life?
What she has taught me about myself is to forge ahead. There's always going to be roadblocks. There's always going to be insecurities, but you have to keep going. You have to be an overcomer and keep going. That's about myself, and that's about life as well. We can't, just sit and do nothing and pout and complain. We have to make changes as best we can, adapt and forge ahead. We have so many phases and so many things in life that are waiting for us to accomplish. We have to keep moving.
I feel that this is just one of the great things about children's books is that, they're obviously, meant to inspire and bring more love and joy into the minds and hearts of little ones and to bring families closer together. But it's also a great teacher for yourself. And one of the things, having the opportunities now, actually, about this point in time, 8 years ago, I decided to step into the realm of publicity and begin helping children's authors. And you truly do have a gift, Suzette, and it's very important that you're continuing to share your message, because this is one of the most beautiful children's books that I've had the opportunities to read and to share here through PR from the Heart, that especially connects with the importance of self-acceptance. So again, we encourage all of you who have been joining us here on episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You can head on over to Suzette's official website, as well as her Facebook page, if you'd like to be able to keep the conversation going post Children's Book Spotlight Series, especially for all the educators that are out there, teachers, principals, and librarians in North Carolina and across the country. If you're interested in facilitating a virtual or in-person author school visit with your little ones to be able to share the message of Little Curly Susie, you can connect with Suzette via her official website and her Facebook page. Also, again, if you wish to be able to purchase your copy of Little Curly Susie, it's a perfect back-to-school resource. And yes, I know some people are already beginning the Christmas shopping. You know what they say, Christmas in July, if I'm not mistaken. So you can head on over to Amazon.com, leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so. Again, that's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Suzette, to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. Raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We see many hands from Suzette, and from myself, we see hands from little ones on screen. Job well done, as we like to say, mission accomplished. If you are a children's author, you would love to be able to share your inspiring story in the release of your brand new children's book, just as Suzette, did here this week on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. If you'd like to be a featured guest on the program, you can head on over to our official website at prfromtheheart.com or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at PR From The Heart. We also like to give 3 tips of the cap here at PR From The Heart. One, of course, is to one of our favorite neighbors. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely of the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. Each and every month, David and I, we deliver the newest heartfelt reviews from the shining stars in the kidlit community at PR From The Heart from their brand new heartfelt children's books. So indeed, if you are a children's author and would love to be able to have David and I share and deliver a heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you know where to connect with us via our official website at prfromtheheart.com and any of our social media platforms. By the way, David and I will be featuring little Curly Susie as part of the August edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So again, you put a little pin in that, and of course, you know, you can continue to learn more and connect more with little Curly Susie over the coming weeks and months ahead as well too. We also want to give a tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, California, very talented Laura Kavanaugh, the host and executive producer of San Diego Living, who is of course my co-host with Empowering Reads for Kids. It is the official television book review segment here at PR From The Heart that airs monthly on CBS 8, the CW San Diego. So if you are a children's author and would love for Laura and I to be able to share your brand new children's book and share it with more children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books here in America's finest city, San Diego, California, on CBS 8, the CW San Diego. You know where to connect with us at prfromtheheart.com or any of our social media platforms on screen. And also one tip of the cap to, again, some of our neighbors. We mentioned them earlier in our conversation. Of course, the team at Unity Church of El Cajon. Each and every month, myself and the youth video ministry team at Unity Church of El Cajon, we proudly present all new episodes of the Unity Church of El Cajon Storytime with Mr. John, presented by PR From The Heart. So if you are a children's author and would love for me as Mr. John to be able to share your brand new children's book, to be able to connect with even more children, parents, and families and educators, those who love great children's books here in San Diego, you can, of course, connect with us via our official website. You can also follow the team at Unity Church of El Cajon, subscribe to their official YouTube channel as well in the process. And also for the children's authors who are interested in having us be of service to you, we're stepping into the back-to-school season and the holiday season. If you are interested in learning more about how we can be of service to you at PR From The Heart, and to be able to facilitate a book media tour in a city or cities of your choosing, whether it be just a few facilitated television interviews, or most importantly, any information on our media coaching and mentoring services as well. You can schedule your courtesy discovery call by heading to our official website at prfromtheheart.com and see how we can be of service to you. One final time, we encourage all of you to head on over to amazon.com, leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so for Little Curly Susie. Again, it's a small book, but most importantly, it packs a powerful and heartfelt message about self-acceptance. You can leave a 5-star review for Suzette. That's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for her, to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work, that she's providing a great resource of care for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. And of course, as we hear the trolley, we know that it is time to go. So again, we want to thank all of you for your continued support of PR From The Heart. We want to thank you for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We want to thank you for your continued support of local libraries and children's and independent bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. We want to thank you, of course, for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One final tip of the cap, of course, to Mr. Rogers. He reminded us in different ways, shapes, and forms. His private numerology. In his private numerology, he had 3 favorite numbers: 1, 4, 3. That was his way of saying I love you. So 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. And he reminded us through every time that he closed Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and when he spoke to different people across the country, he reminded us of our inherent worth and value. And here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, we love to do that with a little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers by sharing our 3 favorite numbers in succession: 2, 4, 3. As Suzette was very kind enough to give us some of her free time this week, we remind you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, that there's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. That's our way of saying that we love you, that you're perfect, you're whole, you're healthy, you're complete, just the way that you are. That most importantly, it's okay. It's healthy to accept yourself and acknowledge yourself as perfect, whole, healthy, and complete, that you can't accept yourself for how God has made you to be, that we like you just the way that you are. So once again, for Suzette Oxendine, for myself, John Massalonis, we want to thank you once again for joining us here on episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. If this message has inspired you, if it's brought some love and joy and healing into your heart, if anything you feel of this resource of care, that is episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, and little curly Susie needs to be shared with someone in need, we encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and share this very special trolley stop that, again, has been episode number 154 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. So again, for Suzette Oxendine, for myself, John Massalonis, thank you for spending some time with us here in our neighborhood. And boy, are there more magical trolley stops to come as we now officially head into the back-to-school season and the holiday seasons here at PR from the Heart. Thank you for helping us to walk home, the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.